Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. Is it worth it to buy Tasha's Cauldron of everything? I'll tell you, I only bought it because I got it used on Amazon for about $25. That's what I thought was worth risking. So this is another supplemental rules book, the same as Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So it's kind of meant to be a later revision and addition to the rules that you get in the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. So what does this book actually have in it? Well, it's got the new Artificer class. I mean, that's kind of cool if you were just running out of classes and subclasses to play. But I know some people are going to dig that, so I can't really bash it. It's also just chock full of more subclasses for all the regular classes, 2 or 3 or more additional subclasses. The same as when I talked about Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Does this add value for you? Man, that's hard to say. Should you buy a $25 to $35 book to get a subclass? That's hard to say too. You probably ought to read up online first about the subclass before you buy the book to get all the specifics and the information. It has this chapter on group patrons, and I actually think this is really good. I really enjoyed reading this, and it gives you a lot of ideas and a lot of options for things. Different types of patrons that basically will help your story continuity in between one-shots. And I think that's a really good thing to have so that there's not just this kind of like baffling mercenary kind of lifestyle where it's like, oh yeah, and now another barkeeper is going to offer you a quest. Instead, you have a reason and you can actually build some story that strings together quest after quest after quest with an overarching higher level story. So I thought this was really good. It's got a chapter on more spells, more magic items, including these silly magic tattoos. And, this just kind of feels like grasping for content at this point. I mean, I don't know. Some people will find value here, but I think most buyers of the book just won't. It has this section on sidekicks, which is kind of cool to codify some of this stuff. But the way they did it, I did not like. They basically created 3 minor classes and said, here's what your sidekicks will kind of be. They'll kind of be some kind of melee type guy or a caster type guy or some kind of expert, depending on what you need in the story. And then they kind of, dream up some skills and some progression for them, things like that. Personally, I think it's better to just have your sidekicks be a regular NPC of a normal class and use the normal class progression for the sidekick. And that's what I've done when I've run sidekicks in games before. They were just a regular NPC of a traditional class. So, I don't know, it's nice to see them acknowledge, hey, sometimes you need sidekicks, sometimes you need additional kind of permanent NPCs in your story, but I did not like the execution of this. Parlaying with monsters. This was great, even though it's not really fleshed out that well. I mean, in fact, this is it. It's this, two pages. But, when you've got a party full of murder hobos and all they want to do is fight everyone, then it's cool to kind of get some rules where you don't have to fight every single thing you meet. Even if it's undead, even if it's, chaotic evil, maybe you could talk to it and convince it to do something without just killing everything in sight all the time. And so I really like this. I wish this would become part of the just the basic player's handbook. When we eventually get to the rumored 5.5e in a couple years, I think this should be a base part of the game because it's so critical, or at the very least, make it part of the 5.5e Dungeon Master's Guide. But this is really valuable. And the last thing that I wanted to feature here, natural hazards. I thought this was really cool. It only has avalanches and falling in the water, falling onto a creature. And again, it was just it's like literally this set of this page and then this. So it's not even an entire page. I wish this was built out into like 20 pages. I want to see stuff like forest fires or rock slides or, all kinds of like interesting natural hazards. I really wish they would flesh that out more and make it bigger for us. So it's neat what they gave us here, but I want more of this. And then it's got this section on puzzles. I'm kind of mixed on this. I think some people will really value this. I'm bad at puzzles, and I'm bad especially at creating puzzles. And so what I'm more likely to do is just not really learn anything from this section, but copy their puzzles, which they are set up for you to copy them. And then if I run out of these or I don't like all of them, I'd be more inclined to just go search Google for D&D puzzles that I could add to my own adventures. So it's cool that they gave you some, but the complexity of puzzles is just kind of such that, you know, you can't ever include enough in a book like this unless you had an entire book that was nothing but puzzles, which I would welcome, because then they could really do things like all different challenge levels of puzzles, stuff like that. So it was kind of neat. One thing I'll say about the quality of the book, it's kind of the same lower quality paper that Xanathar's Guide to Everything had as compared to the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, and the Dungeon Master's Guide. So, and it's really thin too compared to those other books. I'm sorry I didn't get out one of the other ones to show comparison-wise, but the other ones are noticeably thicker. So should you buy this? And that's going to be up for you to decide. I can't tell you definitively to buy this or not to buy it. It's got some great stuff in it. It's also got a lot of stuff that's just kind of desperation to add content to the book. So let me know what you think. If you like this kind of thing, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. I'd love to have you. Thanks.